Hi everyone, it's Dina and I'm back again today with another casual beading tutorial. Today I'll be using items from the Bargain Bead Box February 2025 Floral Fantasy Collection. So from this collection you will need to get out some of the 4mm bicones in the light sapphire AB. You'll need to have some of the 6x4.5mm faceted triangle beads. This is in the color of the slate blue iris. You'll also need to get some sort of seed beads. Today I'm using the Miyuki seed beads in the 11-Os, using the color of the Crystal Labrador Full. And if you're interested in the Miyuki number, that's 55006. You're also going to need some beading wire. I'm using the SoftFlex beading wire, the 49 strand, and the purple amethyst color again today. I have 2 strands already cut off the spool at about 10 inches of length. So you'll need to use whatever length of choice that you prefer, and I would suggest to add at least 2 inches, maybe even 3 inches, to the length of whatever your bracelet is going to be as far as the length of the bracelet itself. You also need to get some crimp tubes out. You'll need 4 for the bracelet, 2 for each strand, and these are 2x2 crimp tubes, and then a clasp of choice, and I'm just doing the magnetic clasps today. The tools that you'll need to get today, you'll need to have some sort of wire cutter so you can cut your wire off the spool and cut off the excess, and then also some sort of crimpers. So if you're using just a typical flat crimp, then you can use crimping pliers or just chain nose pliers and just do a simple crimp, or you can use the magical crimpers like I'm going to use today. So go ahead and get your supplies out and ready to go, and then meet me back and I'll show you that first step. Alright, for the first step, we are going to attach our one part of our clasp right away to the wires. Now this is going to be a multi-strand bracelet, so we need to go ahead and put a crimp tube on both strands of the wire. Go ahead and slide that on. Go ahead and put one of your loops of your clasp. Again, mine's just the magnetic clasp that I decided to use today. And then, very carefully, they will fit, but sometimes you have to just kind of finagle it to get in there. But very carefully put the other 2 strands, or the other 2 sides of your wire through that crimp tube. And then just slide your crimp tube towards the clasp. You want to leave at least a little bit of room here, so that way your clasp has enough room to wiggle around and everything. And then we're going to go ahead and crimp. So it is a magnetic clasp, so that clasp is already attached to the pliers, just like that. So you just have to be careful with it and just just take it slow. Make sure that crimp tube is in the center of your pliers and squish down. Turn it around a little bit, squish it again, and continue to do that until you have a ball of crimp. So I'm going to do this a few more times. Of course, it's getting a little difficult because of the magnetic clasp, but I like to use magnets on my bracelets. It makes it so much easier to take on and off. It also sometimes makes it easier to lose them, depending on the magnet. But most of the magnets that I purchase these days have not failed me as of yet. So, turn this just a couple more times. And then now we have a nice little ball of crimp there at the end. So we're going to go ahead and cut off the excess of these wires. So just get as close to the crimp as you can and cut off that excess and put it aside. Well, and it not stick to the magnet. So now we're stuck with 2 wires right here. So now I'm just going to do 1 wire because it'll be the same thing on the other side as well. So I'm going to string on just a grouping of seed beads. I'm probably going to do, let's see, and the necklace that this kind of goes with, we did 28 beads at the end, so I think I'll string on 28. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's half of them. And then 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Sorry, you have to hear me count. 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay, so 28 seed beads. I'm going to go ahead and put on a crimp tube. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that just yet, because we're going to have to string on 28 seed beads on the other side as well. So, because what we're going to end up doing is that once we have the 28 seed beads on either side, we're going to crimp this at kind of a generic place to allow these seed beads to just kind of move around a little bit on this end of the bracelet. So I'm going to go ahead and string on the other 28, and then I'll meet you back, and then I will show you what we're going to do after we add that crimp tube to both tubes. Meet you back. Okay, so I have my 28 on the other strand. That way you just didn't have to listen to me count out 28 twice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put a crimp tube on both strands of the wire. And eventually at the end, we will end up crimping again, like I said, so that way these beads are kind of floating in between down here. But we'll decide where that's going to be after we get all the beads on and we crimp the other end, because I kind of want that to be somewhat symmetrical with each other. So let's get the rest of the beads on. Now we're going to split our wires apart again. I'm going to go ahead and start off with a seed bead, and I'm going to add on 4 of my triangle beads with a seed bead in between. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Did that wrong. We're going to add a seed bead, then we're going to add a bicone first, and then we're going to start adding our 4 triangle beads. And then 3, and then 4. Now add a second bicone. And then we're going to add on 4 more triangle beads. And 4. And then another seed bead and a bicone, and then end with a seed bead again. So now we have a bicone, 4 triangle beads, a bicone, 4 triangle beads, and ending with a bicone, all with a seed bead in between and beginning and end. So that is our pattern for this part. So go ahead and do the same thing on the second one, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so I have both strands strung on just like that. So we're going to put another crimp tube on both strands. We're not going to crimp it just yet. We'll crimp it at the end. And then now we're going to split our strands apart again, and then we're going to add 28 seed beads on both strands. Now I actually pre-counted out my seed beads on this side, so that way you didn't have to listen to me talk or count. And once you get the seed beads on both sides, then we're going to add our last crimp tube, and then we will crimp the other side of the bracelet. So after you get these on, go ahead and get on the other 28 beads on the other tube, and then add your last crimp tube, and then I'll show you how to crimp it to the other side of the clasp that you choose. Alright, so now that you have everything strung on, this is how I'm going to measure out this bracelet. I don't have a bracelet mandrel, so I typically just lay my bracelet out flat And there's other ways I measure it out too, but this is how I do this one because it tends to be pretty much of a flat bracelet. There's not a whole lot of depth with these beads as well as with the clasp. So usually just laying it out straight like this, you can kind of get an idea of how, the size of the bracelet's actually going to end up being. So I want my bracelet to be around 7.5 inches. So I know I have about almost a whole inch over here of leeway before I can, so I can get this crimped on the other side. So I've already got the crimp tube there. So let's go ahead and bring this around and make sure that we go through the hole on the other side of the magnet. And then we're going to go back through the crimp tube on this side again. And remember I said that we had about an inch or so of leeway. So once I get these two tubes, these two wires through the tube, then I'll move that tube up about an inch. And then that way I know that I'll have about that size is where I need to be for my bracelet. And we'll take it off and measure it again before we crimp and make sure. So I'll show you that in just a second. This is probably the most difficult part of this bracelet, is making sure that everything is the correct size that you want it to be at. Alright. So that's where I'm going to estimate it to begin with, and that seems to be a little small. Oh, and I'm pulling it apart. That's fine, I need to pull it apart anyway. Trying to get that one tube is a little bit looser than the other. I'm trying to get that one, there we go, pulled in a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so now let's do another double check and see what our length is at. So I've got quite a bit more to go. I've got about another, just about 1/4 of an inch, a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch. So I need to loosen this up just a little bit and let there be a little bit more room on this side. So we'll go ahead and measure that. And it looks to be that I have just a little bit left over here, just a tiny little bit. So just scooch it up a little bit more. And we'll estimate that and see how that looks. And it doesn't have to be exact. It can be kind of estimated. It kind of is what it is. If it ends up being a little bit shorter of a bracelet or a little bit longer of a bracelet, you know, it's one of those things. It is what it is. Somebody will like it. Alright, so I'm just moving my crimp tube down. I'm leaving the wire that we just measured. And if you're kind of worried about it, measure again. Just like when you're cutting something, you always want to measure twice and cut once. Alright, so we're right about where we want to be. So let's go ahead and crimp this side. I've got enough room for the magnet to move around some and attach to my pliers. So I'm going to go ahead and crimp. And then just take your time with it, because like I said with the magnet, they're trying to attach to the pliers. So you just want to make sure that you're in the center of the pliers with the crimp tube when you're making the little ball of crimp. And then double check it and pull on both sides, and we are crimped. So do another little check, and I am sitting at just about exactly 7.5 inches. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and cut off this excess of wire down here. And then we're going to figure out where we want to crimp those other two crimps at. Now these other ones are going to be, like I had said earlier, I want the seed beads and everything in between to kind of just flow a little bit. I want it to have a little bit of room. So I am going to be a little bit organic with this. I'm not going to measure it for sure. So one side may be a little bit more tighter than the other and vice versa. I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm just going to sit there and say, okay, I kind of like it looking just about in that area. So I'm going to try to move that crimp tube back to where it was, right about in there. And then I'm going to crimp. I'm just being organic with it. I am not being very picky about where it's going to end up. And we just treat this crimp just like we did the other ones. Just taking your time with it. Just rotating the bead around in the tube, or in the crimper, until you have something that resembles another seed bead sitting there, or another bead. Now with the multiple wires, it's kind of hard to get it to turn sometimes, but it still works. There we go. And then now I'm going to see how this one's kind of a little bit more looser than the other one. I'm perfectly fine with that because I want it to be a little bit more organic and not like exact. So I'm just going to move this one around a little bit and get it to where I want it to be at. Looks like the wires kind of crossed over a little bit, so let's go ahead and put that back the way that was. So that way they can cross over on that side too. And then pick this up about where I want it to be, and then crimp it there. And then when you get done with this, you'll have a bracelet that is not exactly matching the necklace and the earrings that I have already done with this set of beads this month. But it is close enough in matching that you can wear it as a set if you like. And I'll get those necklace and earrings out in just a minute when I get done crimping, if you are not familiar with which one I'm talking about. And I'll have those videos linked down in the description as well. So that way, if you have not seen those other ones, then you can go watch those as well. And if you want to follow along and make them along with me, then you can. Okay, one more little punch and I think I'll be good. Okay, so then that is our bracelet. And then when it goes on, it fits almost perfectly. I like it. Alright, so here is the end of our set. So here's the bracelet that we just made, and then here are the earrings for the first video that came out in the unboxing of the Bargain Bead Box for the February 2025 Floral Fantasy collection. And then I came out with this necklace that was using all the same beads plus a couple extras. And then we did the bracelet today. So like I said, it's not an exact match, but a lot of people don't like matchy-matchy sets. So here you go for this set for this month. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that way you'll be notified the next time I come out with another video. Thanks a bunch, guys. I'll see you in the next video. See ya!